Hello, welcome to Wildwood Teaching. I'm Nicole Trevillis Fravel, and we are in the midst of a series of videos all about nature journaling with preschoolers. Now, the reason I'm taking so much time to focus on nature journaling is that I think sometimes there's a question about, what do I do with preschoolers outside? How do I know that they're learning and not just playing? Um, what can I do to make sure things are happening? And I mean, the beauty of early childhood is that things can be simple. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need a ton of prep time. Sometimes the simplest activities can be the most meaningful for the children. But I know as a teacher, it helps to have some anchor activities to kind of know that you know what's going on. So for me, nature journaling is one of those anchor activities where there's no prep. You can bring it out, you can bring the journals wherever you happen to be. And as long as you have that routine established, then you can build the rest of your curriculum around it by following what the children are noticing and what they're interested in. So today we're going to talk a little bit about picture books that I use in connection with nature journaling. So the first set of picture books that I have are ones that might be helpful when you introduce nature journaling to the children. And so one of those is The Hike, and three children who go on a hike. And all three of the girls have a different way that they interact with nature. Somebody takes photographs, somebody is in charge of the maps. And yes, one of the girls takes along her nature journal and is always writing things down as the girls are hiking. And you get excerpts from her nature journal within the book. And so it is a good introduction to children, inspiration. This girl created her nature journal. What if we had books of our own that we could take into the forest and record the things that interest us? Another example of a book where a child uses nature journal. This is one of my favorites. Winter is Coming. You've probably seen it in other book roundups that I've done. And this is a girl who takes her nature journal and sits quietly in a particular spot and observes the fall and what all of the plants and animals are doing to prepare for the fall until winter comes. But the child always has her journal with her and taking notes and observing what's happening in the forest. The third one is kind of fun because this journal is something that the child decides to do on their own, and keeping a journal about things that they found in nature, trying to find some time to interact with their father who is working. They stumble upon some journals that their father kept as a child, and at the end it has a happy ending where the father and son go out into nature and collect information about nature themselves. So all three of those books would be a good first book to read before you hand over the nature journals to the children and get them excited about it. Now, you might at some point want some inspiration, some reference books for children that aren't guidebooks, but more of a reference of how adults might use journals. And so, again, one of my favorites is Nature Anatomy because it really is like you get a glimpse inside of somebody else's nature journal, where maybe on one page, this author was collecting spiders. On another page, they collect leaves and they're just looking at the shapes of the leaves or the symmetry in the leaves. And so it gives children a few ideas of what they might want to look at or look for when they are taking their nature journals outside. Another one that is completely meant for adults is the Law's Guide to Nature Drawing and Journaling. And again, this is not a read through, this is a reference book. Where it shows step by step how to draw a dragonfly. And what I use it for with the kids is oftentimes when we're drawing and children will say, I don't know how to draw a chicken. When children are very into our chickens right now. I don't know how to draw a chicken. Well, let's think about the shapes. Let's think about the shapes that make up this particular animal and use those when we are drawing it. It also, I like the fact here where this one says simplifying the shape of a flying bird. So a lot of times when we are in our nature journals, we talk about how do you capture movement, right? Rarely, even if it's a plant, is something static in nature. The wind might be blowing through it, the rain might be falling on it. How do you capture that movement in a drawing? I think it's also good for children to see that real scientists really do use journals. And so there's a good picture book about Jane Goodall, The Watcher, which shows how Jane Goodall lived with the chimpanzees and taking note on her adventures so that she could write her book later. What's in Your Pocket covers a number of scientists. And what the book does is it introduces a child. You don't know who the child is. It introduces a child who is out in nature collecting something in nature. So this is Jane Goodall again, collecting the worms and putting them under her pillow. And then you find out later that she grew up to be Jane Goodall, who studied the chimpanzees. But I like to use it to talk about how our nature journals are a way to collect nature while being respectful of it. And of course, without putting worms under our pillows. And then the last bit of inspiration are just ways to look at the art of nature. And this is a rather thick book called Look at the Water. You can certainly read it. The text to it is fairly simple, but I wouldn't want to read each page. It's a good way of talking to the children again about how you capture something on paper that has so much going on. How does this particular drawing make you feel? Do you know what time of day it is? Do you know what the weather is? How do you know? How did the artist choose their colors and their shapes and their overall palette to convey a feeling? How do you know? Do you feel cold when you when you look at this picture? Can you see some movement in it? And the last one is copycat nature-inspired design around the world, and it's exactly as advertised. Common, everyday household objects that are inspired by the way nature protects itself or uses something useful. So, for example, here's the umbrella and how it mimics the way the leaf is either collecting rain itself or protecting the ground below it, or an animal who might be hiding under it from getting wet. So don't worry if you didn't catch all of the titles. Those titles are in a PDF attached to this video. Also attached to this video, and which will show up in a little card, I hope right here where I'm pointing, is a link to a workshop that I'm doing on journaling. It will be a live workshop, but you are welcome to sign up and access the recording afterwards. Again, like I said, nature journaling is an anchor activity. It is something that if you don't know what to do outside, start a nature journaling routine, take those journals out every week or two, and more of your curriculum will come because you will see what the children are interested in. You will have ideas based on, what you might want to prompt them to put into their nature journal. So we are going to take the time to do a workshop on nature journaling. If you are new to it, the workshop will give you ideas on how to get the journal started, what kind of paper to use, all the nitty gritty. If you already have a journaling routine, we will talk about prompts. We will talk about connections to other curricular areas. How do you use the journal as a jumping off point to talk about science, to talk about literacy, to talk about art, to bring in some fine motor. So I do hope that you will join us. You can either click on the link right through the video, or there's attachment below the video as well. And I hope to see you there at the workshop. And next week, when we will be continuing to look at nature journals and talk a little bit about the different art mediums that I use when I am using nature journals with children. I will see you there.